Oh yeah. All right, that's a tune from mine called "Do You Remember?" It's on my first record, which you can get online. um, so just actually laughing, I saw Sons of Sound, my friend Jeff's comment of "Just here to tell you, mushroom coffee sucks." I've yet to try it. Um, I want it. All right, so now I know need, right? I guess so. Um, all right, that's a fun track. That's one of my favorites that I've written, and one of my favorites to perform. And that was inspired by my love of astronomy and Pink Floyd. You can kind of hear some of that in there too. So it's called "Do You Remember?" and it was inspired by the Saturn space missions, the Cassini stuff. And as a kid, being really, really into and still into astronomy and reading up on getting all the pictures from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory when I was a kid, I used to send away for them, and they would send you those 8x10 color glossies. So it was really cool. It's fun. Had them all over my wall. So that's what that's about. And Set the Controls with Heart of the Sun kind of stuff by Pink Floyd. A little bit of echoes going on in there. All right. So thanks for everybody being here as always, and to thank you, BV, for being here as always. Hold on a second. All right. I see my mic is getting pretty hot. Last minute, calling BV. Hey, can you do today as always? Can I bring the mic a little closer? All right, hold on a second. Really? All right, hold on a minute. I was moving it away. That's funny. Let me just check my levels. It's pretty hot. I'm getting pretty hot on this end. All right, let me know if it needs any more work. All right, so first things first, I have a masterclass coming up this weekend, the art of pentatonic phrasing. And there I'm going to talk about, well, soloing with the pentatonic scale, but not in the blues. We're going to take a minor chord progression and a major chord progression, more rock, kind of stuff based. And how working on some connecting fingerings that are transposable to different positions, mixing major and minor. Working on bends and vibrato and how to really think about planning a solo before you actually start soloing. Like, where am I going to go? And I think it's not something that people talk about a lot. It's not going to be lick based necessarily. Just what I think about when you're soloing and how to phrase and how to build solos, how to connect sentences. And that's 30% off using the link down below or in the side there, which BB is being cool enough to do that. And also, I have my Inner Circle, and you get everything if you join the Inner Circle. It's a monthly thing. We do 2 live lessons and hangs a month, the second Wednesday and the last Sunday, so we mix it up time-wise. And anybody who wants to join that, you can use that link as well. And you get all the master classes, you get all the courses, you get your seats for everything. So a bunch of guys are doing that. It's been a lot of fun, really cool community. All right, so let's talk about some stuff. So today I want to talk about the 1-6-2-5-1 chord progression. And this was one of those, it's really, really important turnaround to know. The first place I think I heard it was probably Someday After a While, You'll Be Sorry. The old, oh my gosh, Freddie King tune, thank you. So I'm going to play, this is a track, so if you use the link, you can have the PDFs and the charts I'm going to talk about today. I'll bring them up on screen as well, and here's the track. So it's an 8-bar blues with a bridge. But thank you, Daniel Zamori. Really like that album. Highlands is my favorite track. Thank you. That's one of my favorite things that I've ever written, and one of the favorite things that people say that I've ever written. So thanks. I appreciate that. All right, so 8-bar blues with the bridge. If you want to follow along with your chart, you can. Let's check it out. One, 6, 2, 5. Again. So the 1-6-2-5 is this thing right here. So let's talk about it. We're in the key of G. So a 1 chord in the key of G would be G. All right, so here's me bring over some of these chords. There we go. All right, so 1-6-2-5. So we're in the key. That's not the one I want. Hold on a second. I got the wrong chart. Oh, I messed up. Of course I messed up. Hold on one sec, guys. I can fix this. Hold on. Let's see what I did. I'm going to go back to this. I just want to bring up the right chart. Hold on. Thought I had this right. I know what I had to do. I had to remake the chart because the blocks were dark. Hold on. Come on. Come on, do it for me. Does it do it when I'm live? Oh, you got to be kidding. Sorry, guys. Hold on. There we go. There it is. Okay, boom. All right. So 1-6-2-5-1. We're going to check it out starting on the root on the 6th string. So our 1 chord in the key of G, it's a G blues, is going to be G. Our 6th chord, so G, A, count your first note as 1, G, A, B, C, D. Okay, that's 5, and so 6 is going to be E, right? G, A, B, C, D, E. So our 6th chord is going to be E. Right now we're going to make them all dominant 7th chords because that's something that happens in the blues sometimes. There are variations, and I'll get to that in a minute. So the 1 is going to be G, the 6 is E. The 2, 1-6-2-5, is going to be A, because A is the 2nd note, right? And then G, A, B, C, D is my 5 note, so then is the 5th note, I should say. So my 3 chords, I'm going to make them all dominant 7th chords. It's going to be G7, it's my 1, it's E7, it's my 6, A7 is going to be my 2, and D7 is going to be my 5. So we have our 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. Okay? So that's the thing you want to get together. So the first fingerings that I've given you right over here, I always get this backwards, is the very basic ones. So if you don't have these, we're going to get to the little deeper ones in a minute. Those are the ones that you want to know first, if you're not familiar with them. All right, so just the big old bar chords. So I'm going to have, once again, G7 to E7, now A7 to D7. Now you may say, Jeff, why didn't I go G7 to E7 to A7 to D7 to G7? I could, but let's listen to what that sounded like. Right, you heard this really on our higher notes. If you do the voicings I've given you, you get a little bit more voice leading. So in other words, the notes move a little more smoothly. So if you check out this G7, and we go up to our E7, if I look at our highest note, let's just say, I could say my highest note, let's say the 2nd string is going to be the D string, so the D note on the B string. And I go to my E7, to my A7, to my D7. So I get this really cool sounding thing of as opposed to this very blocky, chordy sounding. Right? So the first thing I will think about is, how can I make it sound as pretty as possible? And these voicings, if you're not familiar with them, I would go with these first. Especially this E7, this dominant 7th chord. It looks like, our C7 chord when we learned it down there, Mustang Sally. Did that? So C7 there, so just going to move it up. There's your root. Now, sometimes you will see it with the 5th in the bass, with the B in the bass. We're not going to do that right now. We're just going to do this. Now, the bass line is really important to think of in your head. Because if you're in a situation that you don't know what a 1-6-2-5-1 is really quickly, Jeff, what's a 1-6-2-5-1 in B flat? This happened in college, and I was like, I know it now. But if you start to memorize your bass notes and just memorize the fingerings at first, it really, really helps. So there's my 1, B flat 7, to F7 is my 6, C is my 2, F7 is my 5, back to B flat. And I just kind of memorized that little bass note line. It was really helpful because I find, you know, if you're playing a gig and someone starts playing this and you're like, oh no, like Someday After a While You'll Be Sorry is in the key of F. And if you're not familiar with the key of F, it can be a little, you know, tricky because you're thinking, oh boy, how am I going to remember that? So I just remember the shape. Okay, so that's the one that starts off on the root on the 6th string. 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. So the next thing you want to do, if you look in the second line over here, is please leave out that little red dot. I'll fix it. I know this always happens to me. I'll fix that. Don't worry about it. So my G7 is going to be my first one. So it's starting the G7 with the root on the 5th string to E7 to the A7 to my D7 back to my G7. So it really behooves you to learn it with, say, starting with root on the 6th string, and then root on the 6th string, and then starting root on the 5th string. The reason for that is, what if you're playing a C blues? There's my 1 in C, right? So if I have that bass note pattern memorized, it's really helpful. So that one is a little easier. So there's my bass, my G, E, A, D, back to the G. So that little move was easier for me to remember, as opposed to. Okay. So any questions so far? It seems pretty straightforward. You just want to learn those voicings. Let me play them. We'll play them over the track.
1, 2, 3.
G, G7, C major, C minor on this one. 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. Do it again. Now the other ones. Okay, now you want to learn that first, and if you download the PDFs, by the way, they're right. This one's a little wrong. The download is totally right. What happened was, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. The next PDF wasn't showing up right, so I had to remake it last minute when I realized it wasn't showing up on the screen. So that's the first thing you want to do. Memorize that. 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. And that's my root on the 6th string one, starting here. Start to envision that. Just play that over and over again. Okay? You really got to get that sound in your head. And the funny thing is, once you start to hear it, then you're like, wow, I hear that all over the place. Jazz blues use it all the time. Lots and lots of tunes. It's pretty standard in jazz. Okay? All right, so the first variation that I just want you to become aware of, there's a number of them. So this is where you have to kind of talk to the person or know the song, talk to the people you're playing with, or know the song. The first variation that's the most common is if you make your 2 chord minor, because in the key of G, your 2 chord would be a minor chord. So a lot of times in blues, they'll just do all dominant 7th chords. But sometimes in blues and in jazz, they'll do a 2 minor chord. They might also do a 6 minor chord. We'll get to that in a second. So the 2 minor chord, it's not on this recording, but I'm going to do all dominant 7ths and I'll do the 2 minor. So 1, G7, E7. Here's my 6. My 2 is A7. My 5 is D7, and back to the G7. So the other way, this is super common, G7, E7, A minor 7, D7, back to G7. So let's hear that. All right. All dominants. Dominants. 2 minor. So definitely there, a difference that you need to know. Oftentimes, if somebody starts playing 1-6-2-5, I'm just going to listen to see which one it is. I also happen to know that on some of the jazz, some of the blues tunes, it seems to be more dominant 7th all the time, but not all the time. Okay, so I wish I had a better idea to tell you which one to play when. You just have to pay attention or ask the guys, what's your 6, what's your 2 on this one? So the other variation that we can come across is playing a 6 minor, which would also be correct with the key. So that would be G. So instead of G7, so instead of playing E7, we would play E minor 7 to A minor 7 to D7, back down to G7. Let's hear that. More jazzy, right? Oh, messed that up. So 1 major, 6 minor, 2 minor, 5 dominant. So that's a little bit more old school jazzy, or just jazz. 1-6-2-5-1. So you're gonna hear that 2-5-1 sound a lot in jazz. So that's 6 minor. All right, so in the standard blues, I always more hear the dominant 7th chord on the 6 especially. Okay. Cool. Now, let's check out this other chart. What is going on today? Boy. All right. Something's messed up. Okay, hold on. Let's try this again now. I'm going to change this over because this shouldn't be doing what it's doing. Okay. There we go. All right. Now, here's the good stuff. You guys are probably used to, you're probably hearing, if you're playing this, it's really big sounding, right? So I would not play that over this. If I could just, I probably wouldn't even play that too much. I wouldn't go. Right, that's just too big. I'm going to play something a little more subtle. So what we're going to do is play these voicings, and they're a little bit of a partial. And I'm going to be playing the root, the 3, and the flat 7th of the chords. So we're getting this tritone in there between my flat 7 and my 3rd. So take a look. I'm going to play this. And I'm going to finger this with 1, 2, and 4. So my 3rd finger is not coming down. Okay. So now I'm going to slide up for my E7. So if you look, that's part of my G7 chord. I'm just playing my 6th string, 4th string, and 3rd string. Everybody grab your guitars. Now when I go to my E7, I'm going to play this. So if you look, fingering wise, I did something really important. If I use my 2nd finger, and my pinky on these 2 notes, and my 1st finger here, when I slide up to my E7 voicing, those 2 fingers stay the same, but my 3rd finger comes down. So I get the lower part of this E7 voicing. So I get this. Right? Okay. A7. Same voicing I did in G7. These two fingers stay the same. First finger comes down. So now for the D7, I slide it down a half step. Back to the G7. Let's hear that. That's pretty cool to me. So check this out. If I wanted to say, imagine playing this, or I'm thinking this, which looks kind of like a minor 7 flat 5 chord voicing on the fourth root on the fifth string. But if I alternate between these two, watch. See, the finger's just going like that. Are partials the same as shell voicings? Yes. It's a good question. Some people call them shell voicings. I'm playing the meat and potatoes of a dominant seventh chord. The 3 and the flat 7 are essential. And then the root, I could drop the root if I wanted to. But check this out. If you notice, those tritones, the third, between a third and the flat 7, move up and then down chromatically. So you get right? So let's hear that.
1, 2, 3.
Sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? Sounds better than... I mean, that's not without its charm, but it could be a bit big, especially when the band comes down like right here. Now, did you hear what the keyboard player played? Imagine listening to somebody else. Check it out. Listen to the keyboard line. He's doing that motion of those tritones. Now listen to the keyboard. Right? Did you hear it? That's exactly what he's doing. He's doing what I am. So if the keyboard player is doing that, I might do the same thing. I'll just lay back, you know? Right? So now that's root on the sixth string, starting that pattern. It's really important for us to, as guitar players, to see some of these patterns, especially if you get called to do something and you're in a key that you're maybe not so familiar with. It's really helpful. So this, but if I start it with root on the fifth string, here's my G7, E7, A7, D7, G7. So I get that same motion. Pretty cool. Right? So let's hear that.
1, 2, 3.
So you see also there, when I did the turnaround, G7, that's that bottom, it's the same exact line, but it's the same exact fingerings, but you're going to start with the root on the 5th string first, right? E7, D7, sorry, A7, D7, then back to my G7. If I slide this down, there's my C7, G7, D7. So same thing down here, G7, C7, G7, D7. It's pretty cool. You start to see this. Sounds like you're doing, I don't say doing more than you are doing. By playing less, I think it's much cooler sounding, right? Because it opens up all this space for the people around you to play, which is a really interesting thing. And then it stopped me from thinking as blocky, right? I know this chord shape to this chord shape. Yes, we are playing chord shapes at the moment. But in doing those chord shapes, I'm still playing less, freeing up a lot of space for anybody else's soloing, as opposed to when I hear somebody play that, I'm always like, really? If they know what they're doing. If you're just beginning and getting into this, of course, just get through it and play that. But for somebody who's, you want to get, if I'm playing in a situation with the band and somebody plays that, I'm going to be like, what's going on over there? It just shows a little lack of experience and understanding what's going on in the changes, or how to not get in everybody's way. Super important. So to bring this to a point once again, if you memorize this, you're on your way. If you're thinking about this, these two fingers stay the same. Very important for me. If I keep that fingering the same and consistent, it makes it much easier to move around, right? And Beavy had mentioned something about a walking bass line, right? That. Now what was that? I'm just entering each chord from a half step above or below. Sorry. And what all that is, I'm just kind of seeing that shape of this gust. I'm just alternating between these two bass notes. So there I'm playing the G7, a little E flat bass note walking up to my E. There's my E7. Now a B flat going down to my A. There's E flat going down to the D, and an A flat going to the G. So that is the beginnings of playing a 1-6-2-5-1. And as I put over there, I said there's variations 1-6-2 minor. If you did that here, you have to kind of figure that's why I put the root 3 in all those chord intervals. I might just bar. Right? So by changing my third of my A7 chord, dropping that C sharp down to a C, I get a minor 7 chord for my 2 chord. Same thing, I wanted to make a 6 minor. Now this is a little trickier. Where's my third? Well, I would do that. I said, a little jazzier, especially when you're doing that 6 minor and a 2 minor, definitely jazzier sounding. All right, so how do you get this together? You just practice the crap out of it. Just do what I just did. All right. Rhythm changes, right? I got rhythm. Da, 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 da. Right? So that's that sound. That's a 1-6-2-5-1. It's unmistakable to me. The tune I'm sort of playing along with, as you can get the track using the link down below, is I'll Survive by B.B. King. It's Someday After a While. It's in You'll Be Sorry. It's in pretty much any jazz blues. I'll play a jazz blues in A. So... There's my 1-6-2-5-1 as my turnaround. So a jazz blues is going to use the 1-6-2-5-1 turnaround. Like I said, it's not the first place I'd heard it. I heard it on some blues standards first, and then when I got into playing jazz in school, I was like, oh, there's that 1-6-2-5-1 again, you know. But I never thought of it as a 1-6-2-5-1. Now the reason why you want to call it a 1-6-2-5-1 is because that's what it is, and it makes it much easier for you to remember, you know, to transpose it to a different key, right? I say easier, but you got to think about doing that. And as I said, those shape ideas work well for me when I first got it. Knowing those little sort of patterns and just using these shapes and seeing the bass notes. Super helpful. Whatever gets you to knowing this is really important. Of course, at the end of the day, you want to just be like, I got this shape for that. I don't know the notes. You do want to know the notes, but that's sort of secondary to being able to play it. Because once you have it under your fingers, and the more you can spend time on it, you're like, oh, I actually want to spend some time and learn those notes, hopefully. All right, so the 1-6-2-5-1, it can go super deep. This is just the tip of the iceberg with this, because there's all sorts of ways you can expand the voicings. Just so really quick, if we go back to this, right? We talked about this. The first one. So there's my G7 to the D7. And I had the same note right there, right? We talked about that in the beginning. There's my E, and I go to the A7. Sounds great. Then to my D7. Well, how about I want to keep my E on the top of everything? Well, let's try to keep the E on most of them. I'm going to start on the G. There's my D note, right? Here's my E7 to my A7. Watch. So I took my D7 chord, but I played the E on top. I wanted to keep it a common tone. That made that a D9 chord. You know, a D9 chord, so check that out. Pretty sweet, right? What if I want to keep the E on top of my G7 chord? Uh-oh. What's that? It's gonna be G, a bunch of ways I can play it. G13, E7, A7, D9, to the G13. Pretty, right? Again. I can really start to, run with this stuff. It's really cool. So G7. Here's my F, right? How about? So I got a. So I put in my F because my G7 chord. Then I go to my E7 chord. To my A7. The D7 or D9. Back to the G. So I can start to hear these different lines happening. And you can really have fun experimenting with this. Let's keep that F on the top of everything. Let's see how that sounds. Let's see. Heck yeah, right? So then you're starting to see how these things work. The 16251 is just the basis, like it's the the nuts and bolts. The notes I put on top can become much more jazzy and cool and hip, and they all have names and everything like that. G13, E7 flat 9, G7 flat 13, D7 sharp 9 to G13. Pretty cool, right? You're not necessarily going to hear that in a Freddie King tune, but you hear Robin Ford play that stuff all the time. All right, so those tensions that you can start to add in. But don't get too caught up in that yet. If you don't know how to play the chord, the 16251, this motion that's happening between your third and your flat seventh of each chord, you have to get that first before you start trying to embellish it and color it up a bit. But the idea on the coloring it up is just you can keep any note that you want on top. Now, do I have to stick to doing this pattern? No, of course not. I could start my G here on E7. Oh, hear that? What was that? Well, if I took G7, E7, A7, D7 to G7, but I wanted to get a little, my ears heard this. And at the core of all that, once again, was on a different string set. I went to that E there like that. I could have done this. Could have done it there. But I got this cool other line happening on the top. Talk about voice leading. All right. Let's get to some questions. Is this making any sense, right? I think it's Death Magneto. It's like a voice leading type thing. It's exactly what it is. So at the basis of all of this is just that 16251. The roots in more importantly, I should say, the thirds and the sevenths of each of the chord. Those are called guide tones. Yes, I am sneaking some jazz in on you, as David Cromwell just said. The guide tones are going to be the most important thing, because then you can outline the sound of the chords without playing all the big chords. You can just play partials of it. And when you download this track, which is part of the Big Blues background tracks that I have for free, listen to the keyboard player. He's awesome. I don't have any guitar on those on purpose. It's for you to put in your rhythm guitar. But the keyboard player is great. Todd Caldwell lives in New York, an amazing keyboard player. And if you listen to what he's playing, he's doing a lot of the stuff I'm talking about. Oftentimes these things are much easier to see on a keyboard, because you can see that common note. Oh yeah, I'm going to keep this finger down the same on that same key. Whereas guitar, sometimes it's a little different because we start to see different shapes in the guitar and it's hard to attach them together. Daniel's saying it makes sense, but it gets kind of confusing watching it at work. Yeah, but if you take your time and start to work through it, it really, really is helpful. Other blues classics that use this, jazz classics, I Got Rhythm. That's any jazz blues is going to do this. That old Peter Green tune, actually B.B. King tune. Oh man, just totally spacing on the name of that tune. Tons of B.B. King tunes do this. Almost any 8-bar blues with a bridge does this. That's Someday After a While. Need Your Love So Bad. Thank you, Phil. I don't know. I've got like a mental block about remembering the title of that song. I love that tune. I just, for some reason, I've taught it on TrueFire courses and everything like that. It's I Need Your Love So Bad. Jumping at Shadows doesn't actually do the 16251. Yeah, so I'm drawing a blank. It's on so many of them, and I'm really bad with BB King song titles, you know? Yeah, I don't think it's on Jumping at Shadows, though. No, I don't think it is. I could be wrong. This was a live version from the Boston Tea Party. It's amazing. Ain't Nobody's Business, Texas Blues Alley. Yeah, man. Ain't Nobody's Business but my own. Ain't Nobody's Business but... there's another one. Ain't Nobody's Business, Ain't Nobody's Business. So, any more? I'm just drawing a blank. I should have probably written down a huge list of it, but it's in a ton of tunes. For me, it's pretty much every jazz blues. So when I hear it, I just know what it is, you know. And that's what you want to get to. Boom, 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 boom. But I got rhythm, so it's like, you know, oh. So, yeah, fuck, sorry. Fudge. No, I'm messing this up. Sorry, yeah. There it is. It's a 165, the beginning of I Got Rhythm. I got rhythm. So the vamp that we always hear. Sorry, I'm just thinking too many things. So that's a 16251 in C. 6 minor. There. So I'm going to do 1 major, actually. 6 minor. 2 minor. 5 dominant 7. So that's diatonic to the key of C. So 16251, so that's 1 major, 6 minor, 2 minor, 5 dominant 7. Right, you know, it's that. So, and I've got rhythm. I got rhythm. Back to the college days. That's called Rhythm Changes for all you jazz guys. Today's brought to you by Better Booch Garden Pear Kombucha. It's good. My wife hates this stuff. I like kombucha. All right, any questions? Oh, what we do. Okay. I got us playing the Changes course a year ago back and love how I explain stuff. I wish I had teachers like that growing up. Thanks, man. Yeah, over at TrueFire, I've got playing my Changes courses. I'm still very proud of my work over at TrueFire. Great bunch of people. So, yeah, check those ones out. And for you guys, if you've really kind of been paying attention to the JM guitar lessons, which I know a lot of you guys are, the course has been kind of building somewhat sequentially. I did triads, major triads, minor triads, soloing with major triads, soloing with minor triads, major scale course, throwing some blues licks courses to get those things together. And then, so I'm kind of building this framework of how we can start to move together through this stuff, and the masterclass as well. And then this weekend, I do have another masterclass, the art of pentatonic phrasing. And there I'm talking about some basic pentatonic ideas that you can start to put in your playing, connecting them either through a major chord progression and a minor chord progression, how to build a solo, how to think about what you do even before you start soloing. Like, how do I plan somewhat of a roadmap? Where do I want to go? Vibrato, bends, all those things that really I feel like, you know, help a lot. So that's 30% off. Oh, hey, there we go. Heart and Soul, that's the one, right? Stand By Me, Thank You, Blue Moon. Of course, you got BB doing this. Duke of Earl, right? Of course, Lovable Sam Cooke. Right, a million tunes. Thanks, BB. I should have known more of those. Okay. Besides asking and hearing, what are other types of distinguishing variations like minors, etc.? Well, I would just mess with them. So the diatonic one, like if you're in the key of C, the one that would be totally 100% correct in the key of C is C major. That's my 1, my 6 chord's minor. A minor. My 2 chord is minor. D minor 7. And then to G7. So that's a 1, 6, 2, 5 that is 100% diatonic to the major scale. That's that body and soul thing sound, right? And I've got rhythm. If I want to make them all dominant sevenths to make it sound a little more that you hear in a blues a lot, and that's when you hear the reason for when the blues one, you get this, that they really play up like that, right? So that motion of that dominant seventh chord, or the tritone between the 3 and the 7 moving chromatically is a big part of that sound. And like I said, a lot of blues tunes will do that. Or the one that I hear most often in blues is the 6 minor, right? So 1 dominant 7, right? So I'd get this. Sorry, the 2 minor. And I think that's when I Lead You Love So Bad. I believe he plays a 2 minor on that one. Okay, so those changes, that subtle minor one sounds great. I do remember, there's a video of me and Robin Ford playing together at Carter Vintage Guitars. We're both playing these gold tops, these old gold tops, none of which are actually ones that he just bought one, and it's not mine, it's a different one. And we're playing a blues, and I made them all dominant sevens. He's like, it's 2 minor. And I'm like, okay, because he just called out, let's do 2 minor. I'm like, okay, great. So that was one of those situations where that's a bit more jazzy. I mean, these are generalizations, but yeah. Caroline on my mind, these foolish things, hallelujah. Every breath you take, really? Oh, wow. Oh, God. Sherry, yeah, certainly. Sherry, of course, by Frankie Valli. Yeah. True Blue by Madonna, perfect by Ed Sheeran. Look at Vivi just killing it. Jamaica? Really? That's right, yeah. That's a 1-6-4-5. That's 1-6-4-5. Right? It's a 1-6-4-5. Also good to know that. My girlfriend got me kombucha as well, and some kefir. Kombucha definitely better. Both are great for health. So they say. I just like it. Kind of a health guy. Anti-inflammatory diet. All that kind of stuff. Vegetarian. Largely vegan. New York, Brooklyn guy. Drinking kombucha. Wearing a cap. All right. So there we go. Any other questions? Hey, Jeff, we're guitar twins today. I'm playing my American Vintage 57 Strat from 2002. What are you rocking there? It is, I've played it before, and I keep on forgetting, this is one of my best sounding guitars. It's not real, it's a relic. And I cannot say who made it. That was the agreement. It's a friend of mine, because, doesn't want Fender to come after him. He makes guitars. And so it's a friend of mine made it and aged it. And these are Ron Ellis's 54 pickup set. And I'm playing to this I love this thing. This Marshall JTM 45. It's so good. Little pickup. Back here, these two. Right? And our bridge. Oops. Yeah, so it's really nice. And 7 1/4. Some people, relics. We talked about this. We had that one video that I put out about relics, and people were like, oh, it's stolen valor. I own vintage guitars. F you. This feels like a vintage guitar. So, whatever. I like when they feel vintage. That's the thing. So, And this is just great. Yeah. What fret wire do you use if the fret wire edges are rolled? Is that distressed finish on the fingerboard? Yeah. Okay, I use 6105s, my Tuttle signature 6105s as well. Fingerboard is rolled a little bit. You don't want to do it too much because then, you got to be careful. Some people over-roll the fingerboard and I like a bigger fret, and then you get the frets poking out. So you have to be very careful with the over-rolling of the fingerboard. And then, this is fake wear in the fingerboard. I would, in my opinion, I love this guitar. I forgot to ask him not to do that, right? But he did, and so whatever, He likes a nacho or whatever. It looks amazing. It doesn't look fake. Unless you're like right up close and you can kind of tell. But everything else to me is really, really, it's super great. And it's got a soft V on it. It feels really legit, and that's the thing I would like about it. And Michael's guitars, I've done the same thing. I didn't want to age it. We cracked the finish, but my Tuttle signature guitar, the finish is off the back of the neck, so it feels the same as this. It just sounds different, like the maple rosewood, and then this one. And this is thin nitro, which is already chipping all over the place, which I love. So I just wanted to play this one today. I haven't played it much in a while. I had it tuned down to E flat, and I put new strings on it, and it sounds so different. It's great. It's like this is that 50s sounding. This is more 60s sounding, and I love both of those sounds. So in terms of playability, Michael's guitars are definitely much more. This feels much more like a vintage playing guitar, where Michael's guitars, although the same radius, play amazingly more modern, even though it's 7 1/4. And I say more modern, in other words, flawlessly. This feels like my 64 in that sense, Stolen Valor is like I want it to look like that now, not in 20 years. Like I said, my feeling on all this stuff is just ridiculous. Like, because I own a 64, and I did all that in a not very long period of time, and I own a 53. So, like, there's no stolen valor anywhere. Usually comes from people who too much free time to think about it. This feels like those. Boom. This is designed, Michael's guitars, to feel like an old guitar. So that's the thing for me. Anyway, they put other finish over the neck and just sand it away. I think he might. He does, kind of sands it away. And then I think they might put an oil on there. Michael's is an oil finish. He finishes it here because I want the headstock. The bugaboo that I have about relic guitars, is if you get a Tuttle and it's all beaten up, and it looks like it's from 1964, but it's got Michael's name on the headstock, or it says Sir or something. I don't love that. If it says Fender on it and it looks kind of beaten up like an old Fender, it feels more right. It's just visual, that's all. But this Tuttle feels a lot like this. It's really worn in, so it's great. So that's a real man cave. Well, years and years of acquiring, buy, sell, trade, all that kind of stuff. I talked about that many times. That's how you get into them. Buy a bunch of guitars, have a bunch of things, and that old Wall Street, the movie, like everything is for sale. Kind of in a way, like if you come across something to get my 64, I've talked about this before. I sold pretty much all my good guitars to get it. I don't regret it, and then I just slowly started to save up, and then, I'm friends with stores and companies and things like that. So you save up on it, and then the next thing, then you buy the next thing that you want. You sacrifice a bunch of things to get that, and it's where you want to put your money too. Like my car is from 2012 because I don't care, and I live in New York City, so I don't really want a fancy car. Anyway, But yeah, there's something also about the relics that Michael and I did on my guitar. Very, very thin finish, and I really like that a lot in like a custom shop relic. The super thin finish really helps a lot, I think, sonically and feel wise. All right, so yeah, any questions? I saw a question further on, further back about the 16251s. Okay, can I play this 16251 turnaround over a standard 145 turnaround? No, not without the other people planning on doing it with you. Okay, that's an excellent point. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. No, that would turn it into either a jazz blues, and then lots of notes would clash. Okay, so I wouldn't do that. But as a soloist, you can. That's another lesson. But no, as a rhythm guitar player, definitely not. That'll get you into some trouble, and it'll sound like a train wreck. So if you just go online, you know, in the YouTubes and check out a jazz blues in A or some jazz blues in A, a million of them will come up. You'll see the changes, and or something like Someday After a While You'll Be Sorry. That was my favorite one. I mean, I love that tune. And Clapton's version, and is Peter Green with Mayall version, and Freddie King's version. Lots of versions of that one. So I would check into whatever style moves you the most. But realize when somebody says let's play a jazz blues, they mean a few things, but the turnaround in a jazz blues is almost always the 16251. Okay, so. It's so funny. I know I was late to announce that I was doing a live today. And I can always tell, like, it's really funny. Sometimes when I do the teaching ones, the numbers are less of how many people are on as opposed to the, check out this pedal. And it's like, so when you talk about like a 16251, a lot of people are like, I don't know, it sounds, what are these numbers? But think about the numbers. This is just, you know, this stuff isn't, I can't say it's not difficult, but it's not if you put a little time into it. Just, you know. Work through them. Jeff casually flexing my other Stratus to 64, and funny enough, I'm pulling out the gold top that he had alone at the office. Yeah, I know. But that's just more my response to guys who are like, "Oh, relics are ridiculous." Like, I own old guitars. I don't necessarily want to travel with my old guitars. I don't want to bring them on an airplane if I don't need to, especially the gold top. So. But there's something about the feel of them that I really love, and that's something I think is super important when you're as a player. Now the PRSs, they have their own thing. I don't have the same. I don't have the same kind of thing about it though with the PRSs. I love what they do is what they do, and boy do I freaking love this guitar. I mean, man, like that guitar completely blew me away, and I love that thing. It just was a guitar I never knew that I needed, and the only guitars I'm playing like are these two. That's why I dug this one out, you know. But right now, it's these two guitars are getting all the work. I really, really dig it. Dude, I can't imagine people getting worked up over liking relic guitars. People get crazy. I did the video on this thing called remember the 335 killer, and man, the amount of hate you get from people about, you know, how a PRS is nowhere near as good as a 335. When I've talked about this before, when I clearly said, I love 335s. I've owned 335s. I want another 335. They're one of my favorite kind of guitars. This thing just kind of blew me away that day, and I knew I would probably play it more because it feels like a Strat, but with humbuckers, it's got this other element to it. And nobody watched that part of the video. It's just great. You know, you don't want to get mad about anything. It's not the internet unless people get mad, you know. It's just what it is. People get, it's, we talked about it in that last live feed, I think it was, you know, people have, it's like a tribal thing. You know, people get really, like I said, they love their baseball teams. Like it's, Surfer B from Boston said, greetings from Boston. It's like Boston versus the Yankees, right? You know, like, you know, it's like a same kind of thing. Fender, yeah, PRS, blah, blah, blah. But I think I mentioned this before. Nobody has ever accused me of ever being a shill for Tuttle, Fender, or Gibson. when I play those. But if I talk about how much I like my PRS, I'm often called a shill. That's the funniest thing. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I work with the company, but I work with Michael, and am I a shill for playing Fenders? Am I a shill for playing Marshalls? Am I, anyway, pretty funny. Putting guitar videos on the internet feels like trying to set down a heavy amp on a crate full of eggs and trying not to break any. Dude, totally true. And as well as I do, the algorithms are brutal. Yeah, you know what I mean? One video could be huge, and then the next video, nothing. And then you're like, what's going on? And then you see your videos being recommended, and then suddenly they're not. I can't figure it out. It's really a drag. Anybody in the chat got enough change down the back of their couch to fund a Rory Gallagher relic? Man, I played one of those a few years ago that my friends at Watch Server had. I really liked that guitar. That model was cool. All right, and so yeah, I'm playing to the JTM 45, which is just great. Really great. Boost it in the front. Yeah. Good stuff. Lifelong Red Sox fan here, born in New York City. You were born in New York City? Oh, Kurt, okay. Live in Texas, go figure. Look, my brother's a Mets fan, because my dad was. So it's just, that's just masochism now. Being a Mets fan. It's always, you just prepare and have them let you down. I'm not a sports guy. I just follow it. Pretty funny. I have to pick up guitar for a few hours each day to get away from the craziness going on. Oh, hell yeah. Right? It's the thing. It's like the safe harbor. Playing the guitar. It's great. Any other questions, guys? On this? Anything in general? Not that I'm going to go into today, but I outlined the chord changes by playing the arpeggios, or even the chords. Yeah, oops. Let's do the simple one. I just kind of played notes from the chord shapes, and then outline the chords. Do you have any seventh arpeggios that you fall back on for blues and jazz stuff? Yeah, well, definitely just the straight on arpeggios for each chord. I have the arpeggios, unlocking seventh arpeggios free course that you can get using the link down below. So it's a free mini course and ebook. But yeah, things I worked on doing, for just a straight blues. Sorry. So I'm thinking about G7, C7, G7, D7, C7, G7. I also have that course playing blues in one position in the key of G. So we just start off right down here, basically doing what I just did. If you want to get into it, I think that's the course. That's the course for you. Theories like vegetables, like Tomo Fujita said, it's good for us. Yeah, I've talked about this many, many times. Um, the anti-intellectual approach to music makes me freaking mental. Um, the more you know, the better you will become. It does not affect your creativity. It does not stifle anything. It just makes you better. It just does. Musicality does not come from. It comes from how you apply these things. I've had people say to me many times, "You don't sound like you went to music school." I'm like, "What does that mean?" Um, and I've mentioned it. I get these comments. I just delete them. But you know, one guy, I thought it was funny. He's like, Jeff doesn't get that. BB King played. He didn't know what he was doing. He just played from the heart. Guys like Jeff and Robin Ford and Larry Carlton and Greg Koch and Joe Bonamassa, they don't get it. And I'm like, well, I'm pretty good company right there. If you got to put me in with those guys. And BB knew what he was doing. It's insulting to the people who play. Hendrix didn't know anything about music. He just played. Bull. He knew exactly what he was doing. And maybe if he didn't have the right, theoretical background or the education, he knew exactly what he was doing. And I find it's insulting to someone how much work that they put into their craft to think they just played from the heart and it just came out. That's not the way things work. Nothing in life works like that. Give me a freaking break. Ugh, makes me crazy. Yeah, exactly, BB. Always crystallizing my thoughts eloquently. Does the opposite. It makes creativity easier. For sure. Especially, just for example, full circle, if you know what that is, boom, then you can start to implement that into your own playing, if I know what the notes are of that, I can see that tritone, how it moves. I can just start playing it, and bam, I'm starting to come up with new ideas and being more creative. I hear somebody play it, and I start to go, what chords are those? You just start to hear it because it's super distinctive. Right? So I just know that sound. I know it's a 16251. Do I know what key it's in? Yeah, maybe. I'm not so great if like horns are playing it. Sometimes the guitar, I'm pretty good with. I'm so used to the sound of the guitar, I can usually tell the key, at least by a half step. Horns, it can mess me up a little bit. I don't have perfect pitch. Used to be that guy because I was afraid of theory. Then I learned the more you know, the more you grow. Yeah, absolutely. Theory opens up incredible vistas. All the greats practiced like crazy. Hey, Brian, what's up, man? Theory is amazing. Why would you be afraid of knowledge? Well, I think that's an epidemic in the world at the moment. Without getting, political, I just think there's an anti-intellectual bent to many things in the world going on right now, which is insane. Those remember thinking growing up, there's the more you know. There was like that little star thing on TV. The more you know. I feel that way about music and everything else. Being intellectually curious about it. Now, look, there's a certain point to where I get to, is it what I love? So I got on an Alan Haldsworth kick a few months ago, and I started kind of digging into trying to play like that again. I can do some of that stuff in a Folesworth way. Like I can pull out some of those things and it can sound kind of cool, given the right guitar and warmed up and all that kind of stuff. But when I look at some of the chord progressions that Alan Haldsworth would solo over, like it's very difficult. It's like there's no tonal center. Oftentimes they just changing keys. Like the chords do not relate to each other often. They sound amazing when he plays it. They sound like they do, but it's not in one key. So that for me would require a lot more study and knowledge and what to do over the top of it. Then after a little while, I started going, I don't love this. I love listening to it. In a fantasy world, I'd love to do it. But when I sit down to play guitar, I get a little, it doesn't move me as much as other things. So, at certain points you can go, okay, that's way deeper down the road I want to go. I understand what's going on, but then you have to make stylistic choices. Jazz is harder to understand and study than blues. It's much more of a discipline where, playing blues well, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about understanding what's going on in jazz tunes requires more study, technical study, know-how on the guitar, knowledge of what's going on, arpeggios, chord progressions, changes, changing keys, all those things like that. Requires more. That said, I ultimately prefer blues or jazzy blues over straight ahead jazz. Just me. It's like listening to a song like Radiohead's Creep and loving the borrowed chord and then knowing why that borrowed chord works. Yeah. Also, when you hear a change, right? This is the stuff, that theory stuff is great to me. So if I hear, like, the letter, right? Ticket for an airplane. But that change. Right? 1 minor, flat 6, dominant 7. Boom. Whatever key I'm in, I know that sound just because I know the theory behind it. As opposed to saying, well, it's A minor, and what's that chord? Oh, it's A minor to F7. I just start to know them as names. That's where the theory angle comes in really helpful. Hey, BB's posting, anyone near Dallas, Andy Timmons is doing a guitar night in the Sanctuary with Dan Stanhart from that pedal show. I would love to go to that. I've known Andy, I've been friendly with Andy for 30-something years, maybe more. Damn, we were talking about that at NAMM, how long we've known each other. I think yeah, we've known each other for a really long time. Since I first moved to New York, because he was living in New York at the time. We used to go to jam sessions, and then I brought him into the National Guitar Workshop to teach there, and started teaching there. So yeah, that's 89, man, damn. And Dan Stanhart, who I just met out in, I saw those guys at NAMM, but also at that pedal show. Dan's a great guy, as you guys can tell. Good a guy as he appears, which is always the best. So is Mick. That's the best. All right, so yeah, go to the Guitar Sanctuary. I would love to go see that, but that's a 2-day drive from New York City down to Texas. And Andy is just ridiculous. He's one of those guys, when I first heard him play, prior to Danger, I was aware of him, but it was Woody's. Ron Wood used to own a club in Manhattan. And it was sort of the end of the, hair metal-y kind of days, or whatever that period was. I still had hair, and I had a lot of it. And there were jams. I forget what night it was. And sorry, my wife just texted me. My elderly dog is starting to wind down, so he's eating. This is this wonderful, horrible thing about having elderly pets, which is, I'm sure anybody who's been through it, we know. I've had lots of pets, but this guy's the king, though, the best one. Anyway, so I remember first hearing Andy play that one time, and I was like, oh my God, that guy's really good. Then he would come to the workshop, and those were tons of fun. Great teacher, great hang. So yeah, if you get to go chance to see Andy do that thing, it's awesome. He's definitely great. Okay. What was the last? Okay. Andy has an underappreciated tone. I would say he's generally underappreciated, whatever that means. In the guitar community is, he's certainly well respected. Yeah. I don't know, maybe because I've known him for so long, and people said to me, like, I think it was Mark Letterry, he's like, I was really influenced by Andy Timmons. And I'm like, oh. And I say, oh, because he and I are, roughly the same age, and I've known each other. I wasn't influenced by him. I thought he was great. So it was really kind of funny when somebody mentioned somebody younger than me, or, my age group, and like, oh, I was really influenced by him. I'm like, really? Oh yeah, of course that makes sense. Different generation. I think Ron Wood is a bit underrated. Ron Wood's bass playing is underrated. The Jeff Beck group, his bass playing, I love that. Yeah. So Daniel's more, it's really hard older pets, but it's the price you pay. Oh man. Well, over the past 20 years, we've put down, because of age, pretty much all of them, 6. So at any given point in time, there's at least 3 or 4 animals in the house because we're suckers. And they find us. They're all rescues. We only do rescues. So this one we found on the street. My wife actually found him running around the street. It was a mess, the pit bull, and yeah, then we just ended up keeping him because he's such a good dog. So we have Bo, who's a picture on the side there, sometimes at the beginning, and he's a lot younger. He's about 4, and he's a rescue from Puerto Rico, a company in New York called the Sado Project. They take him from a beach in Puerto Rico where people seem to dump their dogs. So there's an endless amount of dogs on this beach. And so we got him from there, and we have 3 cats. So, yeah. So Stanley's on the he's on the roller coaster, if you guys understand what I'm talking about. But he's 15, you know, that's like 90 something in people years for a dog his size. All right, I don't want to bring anybody down. It's the price you pay. Give them a great life. They enrich your life. They're the best. Can't imagine not having pets. The only problem is when you want to travel. And boarding. Okay, my only other problem is, just as I'm on this little rant here, is the price of vets. Since I started having pets as an adult, it actually came down to not investment banking, but like, you know, those what's the word they took them over. You know, corporations buy up these vets. And at one point they realized, I talked to my vet about it, because they started realizing that people would pay almost any price for their pet, right? So that's how that changed. So they knew that people would pay a fortune for their dogs. And so in the past 15 years or so, the prices have increased. He was telling me about it. He's like, yeah, I know. And then a lot of the vets, they bought up a lot of the smaller ones, and they start this chain of vets, you know, and that's where it's at. So, yeah, I mean, what was yesterday, on Friday? No, when did I bring him in? All the tests, $1,300. Yeah, private equity. Thanks, Michael. Private equity term. So $1,300 to basically say, yeah, this is what's wrong with them. If you want to go to a specialist, and I've been to a specialist with a dog before, so you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars at that point. So for a 15-year-old dog, you know, you're just chasing your tail. No pun intended. But pet healthcare is out of control. I'm also in a group of people. I'm going to probably go for the catch and release training for cats. But a few of my friends in the neighborhood do it. If you go online on Instagram, Heidi Wrangles Cats. We worked with her, and I've sometimes, since we have a car, I'll drive someone who's got a cat that needs to be fixed to the ASPCA. So yeah, total sucker for this stuff. So is this I guess this is interesting because there's pet owners. We live in Brooklyn, and when I first got here, the situation was worse in terms of the pets, but it was started to be well known in the neighborhood that we were animal rescue people. And so people would just leave dogs. 2 dogs were just chained to our front gate once, over time. You know, so, and then cats would just show up in our backyard. I think they just know. It's like the cat distribution system. Brian, oh my God, we went through 5 vets outside of Philly. Rosemary nearly murdered one. Wow. I know Brian personally. It's his family. So, do you have a one-stop location for all of your courses? That's a great question. There's 2 stop locations for all my courses. There's JM Guitar Lessons. That's all my courses for the past 4 years. And then before that, other than that, is TrueFire. And I'm not making any more courses for TrueFire. I love the work I did with them. It sounds like, I started my own business. Great people, helped me get my start. I'm still in contact with them. They're great. So my older courses are over at TrueFire, or you can buy my newer ones over here, over at JM Guitar Lessons. So either one you could check out. And then as BB's throwing up there, I have my Inner Circle, which is a monthly membership where I do 2 live lessons a month and a hang. So people say like, what's the difference between like what I'm doing here? Well, it'd be like this, but a heck of a lot deeper, and then I would answer all the questions specifically. So it's kind of like this, but twice a month, but with a form, we go through certain stuff and visit courses and definitely go much deeper than anything I would do on an online thing. Part of what I'm doing here is to just show you what's available over at the channel on the Inner Circle, and you would get all the courses, and you get all the boot camps, and you're enrolled immediately in all the master classes as well. So in terms of if you're buying the courses and the master classes, that's the way to go. And then you get the 2 live Zoom lessons, and it's a hang. I'll answer any questions you want, like talk about anything you want. So I am starting to pretty soon. A lot of people have been contacting me about private lessons, and I'm going to decide to clear up about 10 hours a month to do them because I've been really busy with all this stuff, but I get a lot and I just want to offer that. So that's going to be offered pretty soon too. So if you sign up, if you just go over to Jam Guitar Lessons, if you're not a member, it's free to sign up. You can get the jam tracks, anything down below, free jam tracks or the arpeggios. Of course, you get that for free. All you just got to do is you shoot me your email. Arpeggios Unlocked ebook. BB is so on top of everything. So Irby, you got a good heart, Jeff. You got a good heart. That counts. Thanks, man. I mean, pets are the best. I mean, Victor BB, pets. I've got 2 dogs. My wife has several feral cats, chickens, and pigs. Cost me around $400 a month to feed her pets. Oh, I know, man. Oh, I know. We would have a farm if we could, We're fortunate enough in Brooklyn. We have a bit of a space. We have the backyard, which makes life a lot easier when you have dogs. You can just open up the backyard. Just got to make sure you scoop up because at the end of the winter, like when it started to warm up, like, oh my God, like, wow, So busy is good. And thanks to you guys, I am busy. So thanks so much for being here and supporting the channel and everything. All right. On that note, you guys are the best. I appreciate it. Don't forget, all the charts for today and the tracks are down here. Nick Grainville, what's up, man? Morning coffee. Jeff Livestream, good way to start today in Australia. I want to go to Australia. I've got so many friends over there who I've met in person. Some people I've been friends with online for like 10 years. Anyway, you want llamas. Oh, I'd love llamas. I don't know about a horse. That's a lot of work, but yeah, like my wife wants the pygmy goats, the little goats. She wants those. But there's Bo. All right, guys. I will see you maybe next week. I might do every other week. I think sometimes I want to keep them interesting about interesting stuff. So sometimes I don't want to just go online and just talk about nothing like I am right now. So both your dogs out of the Brooklyn NYC ACC. Oh, great, man. Awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of great organizations. Fortunately, the dog thing dropped down here. The cat thing still, just the other week, there's a park right over here and somebody just dumped like 10 kittens. So we got them taken care of. And then another one appeared at our door a few months ago 2 of them, fortunately my son's girlfriend's family took one. And then the other one we end up giving away, which I wish we didn't have to. He was one of the best cats ever, but 4 cats. Anyway, you got a German Shepherd named Bo from 1979 to 1991. Oh, that's a good long life for it. All right, guys. I will see you soon. And I'm almost at 50,000 subscribers. If you do not subscribe, just hit the subscribe button. No matter what, it does help the algorithm significantly. It's been hard to claw those numbers up. A lot of people don't subscribe to people's things as much, but I was talking to Rick Beato. I'm like, well, people say, subscription counts doesn't matter as much. He goes, yeah, the guys with who doesn't have a lot of subscribers say that. So I think he's right. So if you could help out, if you're not a subscriber, please do. And I will see you guys later. Have a great night and day, wherever you may be. You guys are the best. Thanks so much. See ya.